In today's video, we are going to get our turbo system bolted onto our new long block and get a bunch of other cool parts put onto this STI engine. Let's get into it. Got a little bit of residual oil. We're just gonna clean that up a little bit, and then what I'll probably end up doing is after I get this motor oil sealed, I'll just douse it with a little bit of brake clean everything up before it goes in. All right, next step. What I like to do at this point, before I forget, is get our AVCS oil lines put on, because there's a lot of things that can go on after the AVCS oil line, but that will be in the way of you installing them. So we'll start off with the small one. This one goes behind the timing cover, and that's why you kind of have to do it early on, because it really sucks when you get your engine timed and everything, and then you look over at your parts pile and you see this, because since it goes right here behind the timing cover, I'm sure it is possible to get it off without taking the timing apart, but it's probably extremely difficult. These banjos come with pre-filters in them. It has always been our policy to rip these out, because what will happen is if there is any contaminants that get into these pre-filters, they will plug and starve the cam gear of oil, then your AVCS won't work. So when you're pulling them out, try not to stab yourself in the finger like I just did. There it goes, just like that. You'll notice it's no longer in there. And then if you purchase a gasket kit off of our website, it comes with all of the copper washers that you need. Then after these are tight, then we'll move over to the other cylinder head, where that one isn't as hard to get on if there's stuff in the way, but this one, like I said, it's basically impossible. It really sucks to take all the timing right back apart to have to do this little, tiny little process. All right, that one's done. Let's move over to the other side. All right, now we'll get this one laid on. This one you can get on without too much in the way, but once the coolant crossover goes on, you can't get it past because it'll get pinched. Get a fresh copper washer on the bottom, put one on the top. And for whatever reason, Subaru decided to put a little tie-down bolt right there. So there's this one almost completely useless little 10 mil that goes right here. We're gonna get our fresh valve cover gasket out of our gasket kit and put it onto the valve cover, and then we also have brand new spark plug tube seals that go right here. All right, before we apply any silicone to this surface, we're gonna make sure that it's all clean. There's no oil residue or old silicone that's going to affect our seal. All right, I do a bead the entire circumference from the factory. It only has it on certain parts. I just do the whole thing, that way I know it's not gonna leak. The only footnote here, or tech tip I guess, is to just put a little bit extra in these corners here where it transitions into this upright portion here. So just put a little extra right there. Same deal as before. I like to smooth all of it out with my finger just to make sure I get a nice even coating. All right. This one's bolted down. This one's sealed. It's good to go. It still has the original spark plugs in it. I'm going to yank those out, put some fresh ones in. I'll just do that later on. Now let's flip it over and do the other side. So I'm just bolting on the factory motor mounts. You can option polyurethane engine mounts if you want, but this car's not going to make any crazy power, and the stock mounts do a really good job of not creating too much MVH, so we're just going to leave the stock mounts on. Okay, just checking these heads. We are going to put our ETS MaxFlow V2 header on. Before we do that, we'll get some brand new OEM header gaskets out of our gasket kit, like that. Come on. Sometimes these gaskets can get hung up on the threads. They kind of have to go down directly flat. There we go. Okay, let's go over to our parts pile. We are unboxing our ETS MaxFlow V2 because we are going to an equal length header. At some point there is a horsepower restriction. Hang on one second. Hey, what's up? There is a lot of misinformation when it comes to benefits and disadvantages, I guess, to running a factory unequal length header. It does not do better for spool in the mid-range. It will not increase response in the mid-range. That is all, it's all a myth. It's all a myth. It purely comes down to, do you want the rumble, and are you willing to sacrifice engine efficiency for the rumble? Because an equal length header is better across the board. Mid-range, low end, up top, across the board, it's better. But if you absolutely must have the rumble, the factory unequal length header will do just fine, up to like, I don't know, probably 5-ish, 100 horsepower, but the equal length header is just better all around. So there it is. It is beautiful. Before I get all my fingerprints all over it, you can really tell the quality that ETS has. All their welds look fantastic. The collector's cast, so it's not going to have any failure points along more welds. Some people, for whatever reason, think cast stainless parts are not as nice. But anytime there's a weld, that's a failure point. So if you can make a collector that's cast, you're not going to have all these failure points here. So let's get this thing bolted on. Get this beautiful header on. Sometimes it does get a little tight on the studs here. That's just because they have the slip joint. It makes manufacturing easier. I usually just use a rubber mallet and tap them on. There we go. There it goes. If you think that's bad, there's some headers that every time I put one on, I have to use a pry bar to get them on. Now, can you hand me 6 of those nuts? Perfect. Hey.
How's it going?
It's going beautiful. How are you doing? Remember when you had a 400 package car?
You missed it.
Hear that? You didn't. He said he missed it.
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah.
It was a fun car.
You know, Jay, this is going to be pretty similar to what your car was when we're done.
Yeah, this one was nicer.
So, now that we got our long block together, we've got our valve covers on, we're going to start doing some timing stuff. I'm using the Company 23 crank seal tool here. I've been using this thing for a while, and it just works so good, dude. So we're going to get this seal put in, and then we're also going to do all 4 cam seals. And right after that, we can start putting some hoses on our water pump and do our timing system. And then we'll start building our intake manifold setup. This car having W head castings means it is dual AVCS, so all of the cam seals are going to be the same. If you have a single AVCS car, your cam seal on the bottom is going to have a lot more material right here, and that's just because it doesn't have an AVCS gear. So we're going to get all these just kind of set in there, and then we'll go around with our seal installer and finish them off. Again, all of these seals and gaskets come in the gasket kit if you buy it from us. The thing about these seal installers, if you look straight down, you can see that there's 2 lips to it. So there's that inner lip that's going to put all the pressure on the actual seal itself, and then there's this outer lip that's going to catch this edge of the head casting, and it's going to stop it. That way you don't push it too far in. Just like that. Give it a nice little turn, and we'll flip our ratchet. Look at that. Perfect install. Every single time. Look at that. All right, all of our cam seals are done. I like putting something cool on, so I'm going to take a break on the boring stuff, because how many times have we filmed me putting a timing system together, right? I want to film something cool, so we're going to put a Cobb 20G together. Put this up pipe and turbo together on the bench just because it's sometimes a little bit easier. So, have our Cobb stainless steel up pipe here. Now we'll grab our Cobb 20G. Look at that. Isn't that nice? Wow. We're just going to reuse our OEM hardware for this stuff. Got that. That's set up and ready to go on. Now we're going to get our turbo support brackets. We're going to bolt those onto the head, and then we'll be able to slide this up into place. I'm just going to get all these in finger tight, because as we bolt the up pipe onto the header and everything, I don't like getting everything too crazy torqued down, because sometimes you do gotta wiggle stuff to get it to all fit together just right. But I've done this combo before, haven't really had any real issues. Got the original turbo drain off the original header, or original turbo drain on the turbo, yeah. I'll just slide that onto our cob unit. G is really my favorite, but people have been having pretty good luck with the BCP 500Xs, with the FP Blues. If you're gonna get an FP turbo, just make sure that you get the ball bearing version. The journal bearing ones don't tend to perform as well as the ball bearing ones. Rotated kit, yeah, really. Rotated kit's the best way. The thing with the stock turbo setups is it's only worth it if A, your power goals aren't more than 500, but also, yeah, I mean, you can go crazier with a stock location, but the rotated kits just flow so much better. They have way better sizing options for turbos, so you can get the exact response that you want. Because once you go to rotated, you can basically grab any turbo that's off the shelf and bolt it on. More. Got the turbo bolted down to the up pipe, got the up pipe bolted down to the header. All of our support brackets are on. Please, please, please do not put a aftermarket turbo or up pipe on your car without these support brackets. They do a lot for obviously holding the weight of the turbocharger. If you don't have these, it's gonna put all this weight right here, and you're gonna get an up pipe leak, and then you're not gonna make as much power as you normally would be. Nobody wants that. Now I'm gonna transfer the factory oil feed line over to the Cobb 20G. I already have the oil drain put on, and those clamps are all set. So after this is on, our 20G is basically ready to rip. All we got to do is put the studs in and then throw our inlet on. So first thing, notice the turbo feed doesn't fit exactly like stock, because it is a little bit bigger of a turbo. See how we have a little bit of a gap here? The nice part is this tubing is very malleable, and you can kind of bend it within reason. What I like to do is get this so it's just kind of snug on here, and then I'll put the banjo bolt through and just tighten it down with the banjo bolt. That way it just goes exactly where it needs to go, and I'm not bending it trying to get it to where I think it needs to go. You know what I mean? So we're gonna take this, push down on it just a little bit just to get the threads started. Okay, now I'll grab my socket, and it's just gonna kind of walk that tube down. Okay, that's nice and tight. Now all we need to do is grab two 17 mil wrenches and tighten this down. Yep. All right, real quick, I grabbed a part out of our AOS kit because I'm gonna put it on now while it's easy. I suggest you guys do the same. It's just a little Y fitting that goes for the AOS block breather and AOS drain back. This fitting right here is kind of tricky to get to with a clicker clamp, which is what they supply. Typically, if the manifold's all together or if this is in the car, I'll just get rid of these clicker clamps and do a worm clamp, but I like using what's supplied. So I'm gonna do this now while it's easy to get to. Elsewise, it's really kind of a pain in the butt to get to it with everything put together. So I'm gonna get this slid on here. Okay, that should be on tight enough. All right, this is either gonna go right down on or it's gonna break this fitting, one of the two. We saved you guys the boring part, put the timing belt on. If you want a more detailed video, by the way, of us putting something like this together, you can go check out one of our other videos. We'll link it down in the description. It's a 2-hour long stock STI rebuild. It's as applicable as it gets if you have no modified parts and you need to just figure out how to replace the short block in your car. That's a fantastic video, go check it out. I'm just taking out the new rubber seals for the timing cover. Let me get those put on. And then we'll finish up the timing system. And now that that's done, I think that's officially all the boring stuff. Now, I'm just fitting the factory coolant crossover tube and the PCV hard lines over. Got the crossover pipe on, it's all bolted down. All of our PCV lines are on. These ones stay, but the AOS kit does get rid of these ones that go on the front of the head. We'll put that on pretty much at the end of the video, or at the end of the build or whatever. Right now we're gonna put our injector housings on and our silicone inlet. Let's knock that out real quick. All right, with this build, we are going to be using some Injector Dynamics 1050X injectors. These are a very, very reliable option if you're looking at fuel injectors. I mean, I have yet to have a set of these fail on me. They're a premium injector for a reason. They're extremely reliable. You can run ethanol on them at all times of the year and you're not really gonna run into sticking issues or flow issues or anything like that. So, okay, so in this box is our OTL injector housings. These are, without sounding biased, real talk, I've put a lot of injector housings on in the past. These are without a doubt the best ones to install. Cool part about these, they're O-ringed on both the top and the bottom, so there's no need for gaskets. So, and these O-rings are available through McMaster Car. That only takes a day to get to you if you order them. And we have the replacements if you do need a replacement, we have them here. But anyway, these have an adjustment piece here so it can fit all different types of manifolds because through the years they did change this bolt spacing a little bit. But these will fit any EJ car. And if you have a plastic manifold, we do have a plastic manifold version as well that does not have the O-ring groove and it's just flat here. So let's bolt these on. What you're about to watch is me bolt these onto the cylinder head and then put the silicone inlet on, and then we're gonna put the manifold on, right? If you're reusing your factory fuel lines, then I would put this whole assembly together on the bench, meaning the housings, the manifold, the harness, and the inlet all together. Putting the inlet on with the manifold bolted down is extremely, extremely difficult. And if you have the factory fuel lines, you can't put the manifold on after the inlet is already on. Wait. Yeah, because the fuel lines go underneath the inlet and then the manifold goes on top. So you either have to build it on the bench or you have to use an aftermarket fuel line solution like we're going to, and you can piece it together. But just know, if you're watching this and you're gonna follow along on your own build, if you're using the factory fuel lines, do not do it the way that we're about to do in the video. Put it all together on the bench and then slide it on as one assembly. It's way easier that way, trust me. Okay, so we have our silicone inlet from Tomei USA here. We're gonna get this bolted down to the turbo. And then after that, although we don't have the fuel injectors here today, I am going to bolt the rails on because we are going to make the transfer hose that goes from this side of the engine underneath the inlet over here across and over to this side. We'll make that hose up real quick before we bolt the manifold on. That way it's a little bit easier for us later on. Okay, that's on there now. All right. Now, one other thing that you have to change on that silicone inlet, if you're using a Cobb or IAG AOS, there's a fitting that is on the top of the inlet right before the turbo, right here. Before you bolt the manifold on, I like to take the supplied fitting that you get with your kit. This is to adapt that port to the factory blow-by sensor. So we're just gonna put that in before we put the manifold on, just because once again, it just makes it a little bit easier. So off camera, I stripped all the junk that we're not gonna use off the intake manifold. Now I have just the intake manifold here with the harness. We're gonna lay it on. It goes something like this. I'm gonna set this over here. Get that there. It's kind of tricky to get these things on and sitting nice and flush, and tucked and everything, I've got a pretty decent formula for getting them, you know, in place and looking nice and everything now. It's, you know, we're doing everything at once on the stand. I'm going to grab the, the hose that goes from the intake manifold to the top of the AOS just because it's easy to get out right now. So this hose here is going to pull a vacuum onto the AOS, right? Which means there's a check valve here. So you need to make sure that the direction of flow is going into the exhaust manifold and not out. Because if it's flipped and you go and you put your foot down, you're gonna boost your AOS. And we don't want that. So figure out which way it goes. Man. This side. All right, so I can breathe in through this side, but I can't blow out. That means this side needs to go onto the intake manifold. Set under there. And get some pliers. So at this point, we're just gonna kind of start hooking stuff up, cooling hoses, electrical connectors, stuff like that. You can sort of tuck this stuff down and make it look really nice. It is tricky though, to figure out what works and what doesn't. Because I like a good blend of tucked, but also easy to get to, like serviceable, you know? So. This is our injector connector. Again, we don't have the injectors here right now, so we'll put those on later. We're gonna pass these down here underneath the rail and kind of fish them through. Okay, there's our other injector connector. Get this under here. Yeah, look how nice that's gonna look, dude. Okay, see, that's all, look at that. That'll look all nice. It's not all hanging out for everyone to see, you know? In fact, I'm actually gonna loosen that. I'm actually gonna take this fuel line here off. I'm gonna put the harness around it like that. Yeah, there we go. Again, try to make everything nice and neat without being fully tucked. That way you can still get to stuff if you need to. All right, there's that. All that stuff's plugged in. We'll get these plugged into our coil packs. I still need to swap the plugs out, so we'll do that in a minute. Now let's work on this side over here. I think I can get this under here. Yeah, there we go. Go underneath on this side. It'll look a lot better. Or crank sensor plugged in. This is for our air conditioning. Get our coolant temp plugged back in. Shoved under there. Okay. Now, this is where it gets a little tricky to tuck this stuff down. It can obviously be done. It's just tricky, you know? All right, we are going to bolt down our flywheel, and then we're going to put our competition clutch stage 2 friction disc and pressure plate in. Notice I'm using red Loctite on these flywheel bolts. Always, always, always use red Loctite on your flywheel. We're gonna get this stuff put in, and then we're gonna torque all these to 55 foot-pounds. Throw the clutch on, and then I just ordered spark plugs from the parts store. We were all out. So when those show up, I'll gap those down, put those in along with the coil packs, and then we'll probably be at the point of the video where we're putting the motor in. So yeah, I'm gonna put this stuff on and you can watch, and then hopefully we're clipping to me putting the motor in. Yeah, something like that. Thingy here. It's gonna tell me how many times I torqued it. There's 8 fasteners. You know, cycle through. Whew. See that, dude? Here, let me turn the light on for you. Look at that. 8.
Wow.
They're all torqued. How cool is that? As a precautionary, I'm gonna get a little yellow paint pen here, and I'm just gonna mark the fasteners. Just like that. Hooray. Damn. Is that a Company 23 clutch alignment tool available on offthelineperformance.com? If not cup, why cup shaped? I'm playing. There's nothing in there, okay? I'm playing. Don't come for me. I'm playing. It's a Company 23 engine stand available on offthelineperformance.com.
How fast can you say that?
Dude, I'll work on it. All right. So that's going to do it for this episode. We got the long block all put together. I just got to throw spark plugs in it and then we're good to go. If you're enjoying this video, comment, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell because we're going to keep doing more Subaru content. We've seen the analytics. We know you guys like it. So, you know, give us some feedback. Let us know you like it. We'll keep them coming. See you in the next one.